before she became the global icon we know today, a woman whose name defines power, color, and unapologetic brilliance. Nicki Minaj was just a girl named Annika Tanya Mirage. Growing up in the tough neighborhoods of Queens, New York, her story isn't a fairy tale. It's a fight, a symphony of struggle, survival, and self-belief that began long before the world knew her name. Born in Trinidad and raised in the U.S., she grew up between two worlds, one filled with rhythm and color, and the other filled with challenge and chaos. Her childhood was marked by poverty, turbulence, and a desire to escape into something greater. As a young girl, Nicki found her escape in imagination. She created characters, voices, and personas that helped her survive a world that often tried to silence her. Every rhyme, every accent, every exaggerated tone she performed as a kid became the seeds of the artist she would later become. Her parents struggled, her father battled addiction and violence, and her mother worked tirelessly to provide stability. Amid the noise and heartbreak, Nicki learned her first great truth: no one was coming to save her, she would have to save herself. In high school, she attended LaGuardia, the performing arts school famous for nurturing raw talent. There, she discovered the stage and herself. Acting gave her a voice. Music gave her purpose. She started writing lyrics that bled emotion and energy, verses that carried pain disguised as poetry. But after graduation, life didn't roll out a red carpet, it threw obstacles. She worked as a waitress, a customer service rep, even as an office assistant, but nothing fit her soul. The dream of making it in music seemed impossible, until she realized the world wasn't going to give her a chance. She had to take one. Nicki began releasing mixtapes under her own name, carving out her identity one verse at a time. Her wordplay was razor-sharp, her energy magnetic, her style unforgettable. In a male-dominated industry that doubted female rappers, she didn't just compete, she dominated. Her first big break came when Lil Wayne discovered her early work and saw the spark the world hadn't yet noticed. He signed her to Young Money, and from that moment, the journey of a lifetime began. But it wasn't instant fame. Even with talent, Nicki had to prove herself over and over. People judged her accent, her looks, her attitude, everything except her art. But she turned every criticism into fuel. Her response was always the same: they'll talk, I'll work. And work she did. Every night she wrote, every day she recorded, and every second she planned how to become not just a rapper, but a revolution. When her debut album Pink Friday dropped, it was more than music, it was an explosion of personality, creativity, and confidence. Songs like Super Bass and Moment for Life turned her into a global phenomenon. She wasn't afraid to mix hip-hop with pop, rap with theater, confidence with vulnerability. She showed the world that a woman could be powerful and playful, fierce and feminine, all at once. But even as fame found her, Nicki never forgot her roots. She spoke openly about her struggles, her upbringing, and her battles with mental health and identity. Behind the wigs, costumes, and larger-than-life personas was a woman who built her empire brick by brick. She faced sexism, racism, and constant scrutiny, yet every time someone tried to box her in, she broke through. She was rewriting the rules of an industry that never made space for women like her. Nicki didn't just climb the ladder, she built her own throne. She showed the world that rap wasn't just a man's game. She demanded respect and earned it. She became the voice for women who had been told they were too much, too loud, too bold, too real. Every lyric became a declaration: you can't silence me. You can't erase me. You will remember my name. Her story reminds us that greatness isn't given, it's earned through sweat, tears, and an uncheckable belief in yourself. Nicki Minaj didn't wait for permission to be great, she became greatness itself. When Pink Friday dropped in 2010, the world wasn't ready for what was coming. Nicki Minaj exploded onto the scene like a supernova: vibrant wigs, colorful lyrics, animated alter egos, and unstoppable charisma. Every song was a world, every performance a revolution. She didn't just rap, she commanded. She fused bars with theater, making hip-hop not just sound powerful, but look powerful. And suddenly, a new era had begun, one where women didn't just participate in rap, they owned it. The album went platinum. Super Bass became a global anthem, blasting from cars, clubs, and earbuds across continents. Girls mimicked her flow, guys respected her hustle, and the industry, though reluctant at first, had to bow. Nicki had kicked open the door that so many before her had knocked on. But behind the glittering success, there was an uncheckable drive. She wasn't satisfied with being the best female rapper. She wanted to be one of the best, period. Nicki's work ethic became the stuff of legend. She'd spend nights in the studio, rewriting verses until every syllable snapped with precision. Her alter egos, Roman, Barbie, Martha, weren't gimmicks. They were armor. Each one reflected a piece of her soul, helping her navigate the chaos of fame and the criticism that came with it. The world saw wigs and colors. Nicki saw strategy and power. She was crafting her empire, one persona at a time. But as her fame grew, so did the pressure. The industry tried to pit her against others, to label her, to contain her, but she refused. Nicki Minaj wasn't a trend. She was a movement. She became the first woman in rap to achieve milestones previously reserved for men, breaking Billboard records, dominating features, and redefining what commercial success looked like for a female MC. Yet she still faced scrutiny that her male peers never did. Critics questioned her looks, her confidence, even her intelligence. But she didn't shrink. She turned every insult into inspiration. "I don't chase people," she once said. "I chase goals." Her second album, Pink Friday, Roman Reloaded, proved her versatility. She blended pop hits like Starships with hardcore rap verses that reminded everyone where she came from. Nicki didn't just cross genres, she destroyed boundaries. Every move she made was deliberate. Every visual, every lyric, every beat. She understood what few artists ever do, that reinvention isn't about changing who you are. It's about showing the world how infinite you can be. The world watched as she evolved from performer to powerhouse. She began designing perfumes, endorsing global brands, and mentoring younger artists. But her most powerful move was taking control of her narrative. She stopped waiting for the industry to validate her, she validated herself. Yet, the journey was far from easy. Behind the confidence and success, Nicki faced betrayal, heartbreak, and exhaustion. Fame is heavy, and even queens carry pain. But she never let the world see her break. She channeled her emotions into her music. Songs like Pills and Potions and All Things Go revealed a softer, reflective side. She reminded everyone that behind the strength was a woman with a heart that felt deeply. As her career soared, so did her influence. She became a voice for women of color, for immigrants, for dreamers who were told their background defined their ceiling. She didn't just rap for herself, she rapped for every girl who had ever been told no. Her confidence became contagious. Her presence became power. Nicki Minaj had not only become a household name but a global force of inspiration. She showed the world that you can come from nothing and still build everything. That you can be judged, doubted, and dismissed, but still rise above it all with grace and grit. By the time the pink print arrived, Nicki had solidified her place in music history. It was her most vulnerable album, raw, emotional, and brutally honest. She peeled back the layers of fame and let her fans see the woman behind the crown. The Pink Print wasn't just an album, it was her soul, mapped out in melodies and metaphors. She talked about heartbreak, loss, and the pain of being misunderstood. But through it all, one message echoed loud and clear: I survived. And I'm still standing, she once said. When I win, it's because I refuse to lose. And that's exactly what her journey represented, a refusal to give up, no matter how hard life hit. Nicki Minaj didn't just chase dreams, she became the dream. By the mid-2010s, Nicki Minaj had become a force no one could ignore. She wasn't just topping charts, she was rewriting the rules of fame itself. Every collaboration she touched turned to gold. Artists lined up for features, knowing her verse could elevate a song to anthem status. From Drake to Kanye West, from Ariana Grande to Beyoncé, Nicki stood toe-to-toe with the biggest names in music, proving she was not a female rapper, but a rapper. Period. Yet behind the glitter, the noise of fame grew louder. The same industry that once ignored her now obsessed over her every move. Every word, outfit, and tweet became a headline. But Nicki didn't crumble, she controlled the narrative. She had built her empire from Rejection, and now she stood unshaken at its center. Her interviews became legendary, sharp, confident, and fearless. She didn't hesitate to call out double standards. When the world tried to silence her, she got louder. When people said she was too confident, she smiled and replied, I'm not arrogant, I'm aware. Nicki Minaj's power came not only from her lyrics but from her mind. She studied the game, learned the business, and became her own boss. She negotiated her contracts, owned her masters, and built wealth that gave her creative freedom, something few artists achieve. In an industry built to exploit, she refused to be controlled. Every time someone underestimated her, she turned it into motivation. "I'm not lucky," she once said. "I'm blessed. And I work for it." But success never comes without storms. Rivalries, controversies, and constant comparisons followed her wherever she went. The industry tried to create wars among women in rap, but Nicki always knew her real fight wasn't against others. It was against the system that wanted to limit her. She continued to dominate with back-to-back hits, dropping verses that reminded the world why she was in a league of her own. Her flow, delivery, and charisma were unmatched, equal parts fire and finesse. Every lyric carried a piece of her truth. Every performance reminded people why she was called the Queen. Queen. Her fourth studio album, released in 2018. It was more than music, it was a statement. The album was bold, aggressive, and unapologetic. It reflected everything she had endured: betrayal, criticism, and resilience. "I wanted to remind people who I am," she said. And she did. The tracks were filled with confidence, fury, and grace. They told a story of a woman who had been through the fire and emerged with diamonds in her soul. As the years passed, Nicki's influence began to transcend rap. She inspired a generation of female artists: Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, Doja Cat, and many others, who all grew up watching her break barriers. Whether they admitted it or not, every woman who came after her walked through the doors she kicked open. Nicki had become more than an artist. She was a blueprint, a cultural icon whose impact could not be erased. Her fans, known as the Barbs, became one of the most loyal fan bases in the world. They didn't just admire her music, they embodied her message: strength, confidence, and self-belief. Nicki treated her fans like family, often encouraging them to dream bigger, speak louder, and never let anyone define them. She showed that being different was powerful, that being bold was beautiful. But behind the fame, Nicki continued to face personal battles. The pressure of being perfect in a world that magnified every flaw was exhausting. Yet she handled it with the same grace that had carried her from Trinidad to superstardom. She took time away from the spotlight to focus on herself, on love, on family, on peace. And when she returned, she was even more unstoppable. Her collaborations with younger artists, like Ice Spice, and her ventures into new creative projects reminded the world that legends don't fade, they evolve. Nicki's story is not just one of talent, it's one of transformation. She turned pain into poetry, judgment into joy, and barriers into bridges. She taught millions that confidence is not arrogance, that femininity is not weakness, and that power does not require permission, even after 2 decades in the spotlight. Nicki Minaj continues to dominate, breaking records, selling out tour, and inspiring generations. Her legacy isn't just about hits and awards, it's about courage. It's about standing tall in a world that told her she couldn't. It's about believing in yourself so deeply that even when the world doubts you, your faith never wavers. Nicki Minaj's success story is a reminder that greatness often begins in silence, in those moments of doubt and rejection, when no one sees your potential but you. From a little girl in Trinidad with a dream to a global superstar who shaped the sound and style of an era, Nicki has proven that destiny belongs to the fearless. She once said, "You can be the best version of yourself when you stop trying to be like everyone else." That's her gift to the world, a message of independence, confidence, and relentless belief in your own magic.